ISO 9001 was revised in September of 2015. Included in the Quality Management System requirements is an element called risk-based thinking. Risk-based thinking is required for certification under ISO 9001-2015. Risk-based thinking and improvement have replaced the preventive action section of the 2008 ISO standard. Organizations must plan and implement actions to address risks and opportunities. Those actions must be proportionate to the potential impact of the risk or opportunity. Risk is defined as the positive or negative effect of uncertainty. In the 2015 standard, organizations are required to consider both negative and positive risks and the treatment of both. For negative risk, the organization will surely want to reduce its exposure. For a positive risk, the organization will want to exploit the effects. Uncertainty is created due to the lack of meaningful information related to the knowledge or understanding of an event. Meaningful information is the key term. While many organizations produce massive amounts of information and data, that information and data must be meaningful for the organization to take appropriate actions. We begin our discussion of risk-based thinking with one of the quality management principles covered in the introduction video. The process approach is defined as the system-level view of linkages, interfaces, and process interactions. It applies the plan, do, check, and act cycle with an overall focus on risk-based thinking. PDCA is applied to all processes and the quality management system as a whole. Using the plan, do, check, and act cycle, we are able to consider opportunities as well as risks. Since the PDCA cycle is iterative, the risks and opportunities will change dynamically based upon influences to the organization. The first step in PDCA is to establish objectives. This should be system and process objectives. Processes should have planned outcomes, and they should consistently deliver those outcomes. The do step in PDCA is where the work is accomplished. At this step, the organization will implement and perform the processes while monitoring and measuring results. During the check step, we monitor, measure, verify, validate, and report the information and data that has been gathered by the organization. After these measures and metrics have been captured, the organization will analyze this information and decide if additional actions or a change to the plan is needed. The PDCA cycle may happen several times a day, or it may happen several times a year to support the process approach. Risk-based thinking is defined as the planned and implemented actions to address risks and opportunities pertaining to undesired outputs or outcomes. There are negative risks, referred to as threats. There are also positive risks, known as opportunities. Opportunities should be exploited, while threats should be mitigated to an acceptable level, depending upon the risk tolerance of the organization. Risk treatment is the proactive management of risk using countermeasures and controls. Risk is often expressed as a combination of likelihood and consequence. Likelihood is the probability of an event occurring or recurring. Consequence is the possible impact of an event characterized as effect or influence. An effective risk management strategy involves proactive and iterative risk identification, risk ranking, risk treatment, and risk monitoring. Risk identification determines factors that could cause a process or the entire quality management system to deviate from the planned results. Usually, a risk register, risk log, or other risk computer software is used to record the risks. The risk rating places the risks in order based on frequency, likelihood, severity, impact on objectives, monetary consequences, loss of customers, legal exposure, impact on interested parties, and other ranking criteria developed by the organization. Risk identification in the ISO 9001-2015 standard begins in Clause 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. The organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and its strategic direction and that affect its ability to achieve the intended results of its quality management system. The organization shall monitor and review information about these external and internal issues. Some things to consider when developing the context of the organization, as well as risks and opportunities, are the vision statement, the mission statement, policies, objectives, strategic objectives, strategies, the infrastructure of the organization, the legal exposure, technological challenges, competition, the organizational culture, the geographical location, and the organizational knowledge and performance, historical information and data. Next, ISO 9001-2015 requires actions to address risks and opportunities in Clause 6.1. The organization shall consider the issues referred to in Clause 4.1, which is the context of the organization, and the requirements referred to in Clause 4.2, which identifies needs and expectations of interested parties. The organization shall determine the risks and opportunities that need to be addressed. Clause 6.1 addresses risks at an operational level. Some considerations during this process are context of the organization, which is Clause 4.1, the needs and expectations of interested parties, Clause 4.2, the quality management system objectives, processes and controls, resources, improvement needs, customers and customer requirements, organizational changes, product and or service requirements, external providers, audit results, and analysis and evaluation results. The organization should also develop other considerations based upon the specific business environment, including internal and external effects and influences. A way to rank the risks and to capture the risks is shown in this example. In the first column, we capture the issues and risks from internal and external sources. Next, we document the planned results. The next column represents any uncertainty. Uncertainty can be developed through brainstorming and the involvement of other interested parties. Next, we rank the risk according to severity. However, some organizations will use probability and severity to rank their risks. The far right column identifies any potential opportunities that may come from the issues and risks. This is a very simple example. However, it could be used to fulfill the requirements. Remember, ISO tells us what to do, but it does not tell us how to do it. That decision is left up to the organization. Some risk treatments that may be used include avoidance. Avoidance is simply eliminating causes, changing the plans, discontinuing the activities, or otherwise avoiding the risk altogether. Mitigation reduces the event probability, limits the exposure, and reduces the impact to the organization. Mitigation strategies are the most used of the risk treatments. Some organizations may accept the risk. Acceptance takes no action and accepts the consequences. Transference is removing impact and/or consequences by reassigning responsibility. An example of transference would be purchasing an insurance policy that would cover the capital outlay or the penalties of a risk. And finally, exploitation. Certainly, when we have a negative risk, we are hoping that we can decrease the impact. However, if it is a positive risk, we may very well want to increase the probability and also maximize the possible effects of that positive risk. Another crucial element of risk-based thinking is risk monitoring. Risk monitoring is periodically reviewing identified risks, identifying new risks, both internal and external, ensuring proper execution of planned risk treatments, and evaluating the effectiveness of the actions taken. Risk monitoring can be accomplished using the risk matrix, risk log or register, and simply reviewing with interested parties to see if there are any changes to the risk. I hope this short video has been helpful in explaining risk-based thinking.